Looks like they're filling in here.
Hello, good afternoon. Welcome, welcome. Welcome to the We All We Got San Diego Mutual Aid panel. And thank you so much for being with us at the 6th Annual Social Justice and Education Conference. We're so happy to have you here. We are definitely excited for this panel in particular. So I'm going to start off by giving a brief intro, a welcome, a land acknowledgement, and then we will move on to our panel since they are ready to go. I'm so excited. So again, as I mentioned, this is the We All We Got San Diego Mutual Aid. Today we have Kelsey Daniels, Rudy Fabunuan, Jen Frost Moreno, and Christina Griffin. Mutual aid, solidarity, not charity. So we just want to welcome everyone to San Diego City College's 6th Annual Social Justice Conference. Our theme this year is Dignity to Dream. We are grateful to continue our conference through this virtual platform and appreciate your attendance today. It is very important for us to start with a land acknowledgement. San Diego City College acknowledges that our campus is built on Kumeyaay indigenous homelands. We recognize the Kumeyaay people, past and present, and their land with honor and gratitude. We also want to inform you that this session is being recorded and archived. Later in the session, you may be asked to turn on your videos or unmute to ask any questions. In doing so, you are consenting to being recorded. We also have a statement on safe spaces. The Sankofa Committee, in conjunction with the San Diego City College Social Justice and Education Conference, is committed to creating a space and community that values a collective vision of justice, equity. We aim to amplify voices that have been marginalized as a means to reimagine and enact a more representative and equitable future. Our intent for this conference is to collaboratively build a safer and more inclusive space for our communities. In doing so, we must uphold certain values that leave no space for harmful or disrespectful behavior. Racism, sexism, homophobia, transphobia, albinism, and other forms of violence do not have a place at this conference. In order for this conference to sustain its mission as an event that collectively fosters and inspires the role of social justice in our lives, we must also hold ourselves accountable if we make mistakes. This community includes all of us, and it must be sustained by all of us. You will be asked to leave and removed from this session if you do not uphold and practice these values during this session. We are excited to have We Got San Diego Mutual Aid, Kelsey Daniels, Rudy Fabunan, Jen Frost Moreno, and Christina Griffin share their stories and expertise today, and we will have time for questions at the end. Please use the chat feature for questions, or we may unmute you if you would like to ask your questions directly. We also want to remind you that this year's conference is highlighting the crucial work of the organization Think Dignity. Think Dignity's mission is to inspire, empower, and organize our community to advance basic dignity for those living on the streets. We encourage you to find out more and donate if you are able to on their website. You can also attend the conference session tomorrow, 2:20 to 3:45, and hear directly from the Think Dignity's Executive Director, Michele Woodson. Now, I would love to introduce our panelists today. And as we are introducing them, I will be placing their bios in the chat so that you can all see their background in case you miss it. So to begin with, our beautiful Kelsey Daniels is an artist, organizer, scholar, baddie, who knows that telling her story and curating space for others to do the same is a crucial part of imagining better worlds. She is the development associate at We Got San Diego and is passionate about creating systems that prioritize empathy and accessibility. She also shows up in the community as an organizer, March for Black Women San Diego and Black Lives Matter San Diego. And she is the host of The Sit-In, a Black Healing Space and Check Please, an open mic experiment. When she is not operating in her community-based roles, Kelsey enjoys creating Instagram sagas, listening to her comfort playlists, and laughing loudly on video chats. Our next panelist is Jennifer Frost Moreno. She is an organizer, scholar, professor, and podcaster with an MA in History and Theory of Contemporary Art from the the San Francisco Art Institute. Frost Moreno is a queer Chicana with Indigenous ancestry who works closely with her community in her hometown of San Diego. She volunteers and organizes with Armadillo Search and Rescue, We Got San Diego, and the AFT Immigrant Student Support Committee. Our next panelist, Rudy, is a bioinformatics scientist, a graduate of San Diego State University, and an organizer with We Got San Diego. He grew up in a multi-generational working class immigrant family in Los Angeles and currently lives in San Diego with his partner and dog. Our next panelist, Christina Griffin Jones, has lived on land that was stolen from Kumeyaay people. The colonizers renamed San Diego County all of her life. Christina is a Howard University alumna. Christina uses she, her pronouns and has worked internationally, nationally, regionally, and locally alongside organizations that center folks who are Black, folks who are Indigenous, folks who are LGBTQNB+, folks who are immigrants, folks who are living in public or who are experiencing insecure housing, folks who are living in prisons, jails, detention centers, and have experienced other forms of state-sanctioned violence, and folks who are experiencing injustices at their workplace. Christina's mother, Yvonne Griffin Spinks, taught her how to organize. Christina has had the honor of organizing with organizations like We Got San Diego, Dee Dee McClure Community Bell Fund, United Domestic Workers, Unite Here, PICO, Black Lives Matter, Espacio Migrante, ACLU, and March for Black Women San Diego, to name a few. Christina says her favorite Leela Watson quote describes her organizing approach. If you have come to help me, you are wasting your time. But if you have come because your liberation is bound up with mine, then stay and let us work together. A few of Christina's hopes for the world are that Black trans women are supported, respected, believed, and protected. And police, border patrol, ICE, prisons, jails, and cash bail are abolished. Christina tries to use every platform and conversation to show up against homophobia, transphobia, and anti-Blackness, and welcomes being called in and called out about how she can do better. Again, this is Mutual Aid, Solidarity, Not Charity, organizers of We Got San Diego, as they discuss their formation of their collective, the philosophies guiding their work, the challenges that come with creating systems that are direct opposition to the standard model of charity and the community source solutions that they are going in. Welcome, thank you so much.
Woo, those bios, y'all are bad. I don't know if Jen or if someone wants to start sharing the slides, but I'm so excited to be with y'all today. Yeah. So I think we wanted to start off with a land acknowledgement. Chris, you want to lead us?
Thank you so much, Kels. We honor that the land and respect and knowledge that we are on unceded Kumeyaay territory. The Kumeyaay people are the stewards and rightful owners of this land. Yeah, and we honor y'all. Yes, I love this picture, Kels. Woo!
Oh man, when I saw this, in the slides this morning, I cackled, right? Um, so this is going to look like just an open conversation around a couple of questions. But, we wanted to start it off by asking each other, what are our dreams for ourselves and our communities? So I don't want to answer first, but I'd be interested if one of y'all want to share to kick us off.
Well, I can go. My dreams are for like our loved ones who are like caretakers for, for them to be able to rest. Like I'm talking about like our caregivers and our caregivers for like people with disabilities and different abilities that are seen and unseen, right? I'm thinking about my loved ones that show up to bail out family members in the middle of the night. I'm thinking about the people who do that kind of that definitely thankless work. And my dreams are to build a world where white supremacy doesn't exist anymore with my friends. Yeah, my dreams.
Yeah.
Go next. I love that, Christina. And I also want to say that just like thinking about this question was really hard for me. I think being creative is also like just like really hard, and like being imaginative. And so I want to acknowledge or like start by saying that when I was thinking about this question, I really grounded myself in like, okay, where in what spaces did I feel alone? In what spaces did I feel unsupported? And so in a world that would be my dream world, I think it would be where everybody's supported. There's like endless amounts of support in, everything that you can imagine. But also I think trust, where, you're in a space where you can just trust everybody, where there's like no competition. And yeah, I think that's like what my dream space would be.
Yeah, really.
That's so beautiful, Rudy. And thank you, Kelsey, for starting us off with this question. I love starting with dreaming because it's unconventional in the sense that typically, we start with like a problem, but in this way, we're like, you asked us to think about, our dreams and thinking for the future. And I think mine is similar to Rudy, thinking about like a world where our worst case scenario is not the death of our friends. I think that's something I think about a lot. And then of course, like I dream of a world where migration is dignified. I think that would solve a lot of the world's problems. Because my family had the freedom to migrate, and I just wish that, for folks today, and with that, an extension being that imperialism didn't exist, capitalism didn't exist, and that we could rest without fear of guilt, which I'm pretty sure Kelsey is going to speak on too. So thank you.
Can y'all thumbs up if you can hear me? Because my neighbors decided to start being rude and make noise. We good? Okay. So my dream looked like one where, my homies are allowed to have crisis and stay here. My entrance into wanting to really build new worlds has like been informed by the care that my loved ones and I have received when dealing with chemical imbalances in our brain and mental health challenges. And my dream looks like a world where there are alternatives to carceral options for people who just need love and support. My dream, one of my big dreams is to have a Black healing dream ranch, right? Where people who are exhausted and weary from this, I'm trying not to cuss, but from this world, have a space to go and access rest and access community care and not be isolated. So yeah, these are our dreams. And I'm looking forward to when we do get to do the chat and the question and answer. Or actually, I think if folks have access to the chat, dropping their dreams too. Because, this is a collective dream session today.
Cool. So I'll ask the next question for us to answer. How do our dreams inform how we show up in We All We Got?
So for me, like my dreams show up. So the way that my dreams inform how I show up and We All We Got, me and my friend Candy, my friend DJ Cutting Candy, like texted me and was like, "Hey Christina, like, do you want to start a mutual aid?" And I was like a bank? Is that what? Because I had never heard of a mutual aid before. But it's like we find out in this work that all the things we've been doing has been of the spirit and of mutual aid. Oh, I'm sorry if I went ahead too. Whoops. No. Go back to that one. Go back. Okay, we will.
No, we were just showing y'all pretty pictures. While you talking? We can go backward.
I'm
Stay
so
here. Put her on display.
But it's like no surprise, right? For me, DJ Cutting Candy, I first met her at a Trayvon Martin, a Justice for Trayvon Martin rally in City Heights, where it was the first time that I had spoken about police violence and white supremacy, right, and taking a Black person's life publicly, and learning so much from her in that space. So it's like kind of like my dreams of like working with my friends to dismantle and like make white supremacy like go away. I've been able to do that with DJ Cutting Candy, and then like no surprise, Kelsey was like the next person that I called. And then I was able to build a friendship with Jen, and like build a friendship with Rudy. So my dreams have really been allowed to be alive and grow stronger in working in this We All We Got space.
No, well, it's quiet. My dreams inform how we show up and We All We Got, because it's been such a beautiful and refreshing space to be able to do this work with people who also prioritize and understand rest and understand mental health challenges and understand that sometimes I'm depressed and the things that I said I was going to do may not meet that deadline, right? And I think that informs how we can show up with our community, right, in a way that like we're offering grace and denying shame, and how we do the solidarity work, right, and understanding that things aren't going to always look pretty and perfect. There's this poem that I'm going to butcher horribly, but they're talking about our people aren't beautiful and romantic, nor should they have to be. Right, we deserve care even when we act up, and I'm grateful that dream gets to be realized amongst people who remind me that every day.
I'll just pop in real quick, but yeah, I think that my dreams are about liberation and also abolition, and I think that informs like how I show up in this work, in the sense that like I want folks to feel that and to know that it's achievable and possible, whether it's getting free groceries for no reason whatsoever, or calling our number and getting to talk to a stranger, but a stranger who like cares about you. Building this like network has been like building a network where people believe that like care is like the baseline and not the goal, right? And it's something I have to remind myself of as well, because I grew up in this white supremacist capitalist system. I didn't cuss in there. And like that, the care, the human ability to care and bring dignity, has at some points in my life been stolen, and so I think like being able to work in a mutual aid like allows me to like hold on to that and to like learn from others as well. So yeah. Rudy, what about you?
Yeah, so like Christina, this is also my first time being in a mutual aid, and so I also feel really lucky to be in this particular mutual aid, right? Because everybody is so understanding, everybody, shows up at different times. But I think, so my dreams were more about like being supported, right? And so the way that I feel that I show up in this mutual aid is by modeling what the harmonizers or what this group has really shown me at the very beginning when we started off, which is like showing up, being supportive, calling, hey, are you okay doing this work, right? Because I noticed that doing this work, if you don't feel supported, your capacity level just kind of starts to plummet. And so I work really closely with our remote team. And so I'm always like trying to make sure that they're feeling supported, making sure that they're, have the things and have the people and have the resources that they need. I think that's how I show up.
That's dope. I wanted to like impromptu question before we move on. I feel like we've been talking about mutual aid, but maybe like if we can define it for folks who may not be familiar, right? So yeah, I know we're gonna get into our principles, but also, as we read them, if we can think of like what it means, because Chris, you were talking about, I'd never been a part of this, but learning about mutual aid to me, like I was like, oh, this is what my aunties was doing, and also, y'all, I cuss. Apologies, but
Yeah,
not apologies,
don't
because we're
cuss.
decolonizing.
I want to
know.
I want to curse.
Yeah, so I just want to put that out there. It's gonna happen.
I appreciate that, Kelsey, because like and for everybody on the call too, a big thing for us in this presentation is that we want y'all to feel like if there's like an issue or barrier that you see, like like don't be a jerk about it and be like, I'm gonna solve this on my own. But like knowing that like you can get on the phone with the homies, you can get on the phone with your network and figure out like how are we going to do this, and also knowing you don't have to do it on your own. Like Kelsey lifted up, right? Like a lot of y'all on this phone are doing mutual aid, right? Already on this Zoom call are doing mutual aid already. Like the stuff we've been doing in the bail fund, like that's mutual aid. The stuff that like the dope ass Black women and femmes in like March for Black Women in San Diego are doing is like mutual aid. Well, Armadillos is doing mutual aid. And like also y'all, I don't know if y'all know Rudy, but Rudy shows up just when stuff gets really, really tough. Like, I'm like, Rudy, I'm spiraling. And Rudy is like, hey, what do you need? Guess what? Fuck that thing we said we were going to do. You don't need to do it. Yeah, I cursed. Bam. You're on mute, Kelsey.
I was just saying, it's gonna happen. Just get comfortable with, we're decolonizing today.
Kels, I appreciate you for like grounding us and like getting a shared understanding about what we say, what mutual aid is, because I was really thankful that when I asked Candy what mutual aid was, Candy wasn't like, oh, Christina, you ain't down enough. Forget it. Candy was like, Chris, this is what it is. So yeah, thank you, Kels.
Yeah, because I think the same thing when like mutual aid practice was like, what is that? And I was like, oh, it's what we did when one of our co-organizers was dealing with some housing insecurity. We was like, all right, so we using this money that we fundraised from our Black women to pay some rent. Like it's what, like I said, like our aunties like making sure folks was fed, making sure kids was picked up from school when, people had to work late. Mutual aid is really just showing up, right? And it's skill sharing and it's resource sharing and it's something that's really accessible. And it's not something you have to have an org or a 501c3, to be able to do. And so I just wanted to like make sure we got that clear as they're talking and defining that, because sometimes people will be hella like academic and like, this theory and it was started and like, nah, that's not important. So
and it's so important that because like in my organizing practice, it's like I'm organizing wrong if the folks most impacted aren't centered and a part of it. Because we all have to understand that like those of us who've been like the most impacted, the answers are in us. It's not going to come from anything external. Like y'all, we are the ones that are going to free us, period. It's not going to be behind somebody else. It's going to be with our stories, with our organizing, and with us supporting each other. And if more programs, more things that were geared to help us, included us at the table, they would be successful, because the solution is in us.
yes. And I always say, I was like, the only difference between Socrates and my homies is Socrates got written down and white people care. Like, it's like, I know some of the dopest philosophers. I know some of the folks who like spit theory. Candy, like, we be in meetings and Candy just be dropping them. Was like, let me write this down, like, so like the expertise is there, and I really am grateful that we got is a collective. One of the like several organizations in San Diego that I think give folks opportunity to grow and also share. And it's not like, what are your credentials? So which I think, flows right in.
Yeah, I mean, we're all experts in our own existence, and I want to lift up what Ana Laura was like. Ana Laura did this amazing grounding technique with us, and shout out to you, hi, where she said, we sat there and we took a few deep breaths and we said this mantra, if you will, of I know what I know and I know what I need. And I mean, that's so powerful. It brings a tear to your eye, because it's like, yes, like I've lived here, in this body, in this space, and I've navigated these spaces and I've code switched 1,000 times. And, that has given me like the ability to connect with people who are like me and who like, want to feel empowered to like find solutions to these problems, right? And these issues. And I think like for students who are here and listening, I think that's important. Like I always tell my students, like, you need to know your situation, you need to know where you're at. And so I just appreciate that, Ana Laura, so much. So thank you. Do you want to move on to the next slide, Kels? Vámonos.
So what does it mean to show up in solidarity, not charity?
Over here like playing roulette, like who's gonna do it? I can answer. What does it mean to show up in solidarity, not charity? It means to abolish the nonprofit industrial complex that lives in your mind, right? Because, and I can say this as a nonprofit dropout, a social services dropout, the structures that we have and the models that we have a lot of times are like, I'm the helper, you are the helped. I am this, you are that. I have boundaries, that separate me from you. I cannot see myself in you because I'm the one who's giving you all the things, And so solidarity means like, I see you, you are fun, you could be me and I could be you, right? Like, and really seeing the humanity. And then it becomes something different than like, I'm doing this because I'm a good person. And it turns into I'm doing this because like it's necessary. And like, I don't deserve none of the privileges that I have. You know, we're gonna get into that a little bit later. Like, there's nothing that I have done in this world that earns me housing. There's nothing that I've done that makes me more worthy of food. You know, like, and so I think like moving from that, and it's really hard because we've been socialized into a way that says like, you know, we do our little good charity over there. We can post it on social media. We can feel good about ourselves. And I think like it's calling us into a new way of being, or returning to a way that we like our people know how to do, right? Like indigenous folks, black folks, other folks of color, like we know how to keep our people in community. But like when all that white shit comes into play, that's when we have to like unlearn. So it's a returning. That's how I view it.
Like ashe to everything Kelsey said. And I think like for me too, like solidarity, not charity, it means like my liberation is bound up with yours. So like I'm not gonna I'm not gonna like be like, okay, you still, you like I'm showing up to get brownie points when it's like, no, like I'm gonna be here for a long time because just because, like Audre Lorde's quote says, right? Just because your chains look different, like I know that I'm still in chains too. I know that, I'm not free until you're free too. So yeah.
Yeah, so everything what Kelsey and Christina, I 100% agree with. But I think I want to tie it to a couple of our principles, if I can. And so again, like solidarity, like Christina said, is like you're in the struggle together, right? You built this shared knowledge of why you're in this space together. And like what Kelsey said, charity is basically, making a distinction between the people that have access and the people that don't, right? And so one of our principles is that we acknowledge white supremacy, capitalism, hetero-cis patriarchy, imperialism, colonialism, xenophobia, and other forms of oppressions exist. And charity is part of these forms of oppression, right? And so a rich person or a person that has access to capital can give money, but that money has conditions on it, right? Like you have to be a US citizen to receive aid, or other conditions. You have to be a certain age, whatever it is. And the money that they give to 501(c)(3)s is protected in some way. And one of those ways is, I'm going to say a trigger word for us, the budget, right? Where we have like, we can only give out so much aid in a certain month, right? And so that's a way that it's protected in this oppressive system. We think differently, right? And I want to connect it to like another principle that we have. And so the other principle that we have is that we value self-determination. I think Kelsey was saying this, right? We honor that people know what they need to survive. So we, as a mutual aid, we got, how do we show up in solidarity, not charity? Is that we reject the charity model, right? And we redistribute wealth to those that know what they need. And we place no conditions on our aid. And that's how we show up in solidarity, protecting people, from these harmful systems of oppression. But also, I want to highlight that without mutual aids, I think the most marginalized people will not have a system there to support them. So we're there supporting the most marginalized people that can't get aid because of whatever condition there is in this oppressive world.
That's so powerful, Rudy. Thank you so much for tying us to our principles and our values, which were written by Kelsey and Ana Laura and DJ Cut and Candy at the beginning of We All We Got. And they're basically pinpoints for us to work in, right? They ground us, you know, in our work. And yeah, I think I was connecting to what you were saying in the sense that to understand solidarity is to understand that like only those in solidarity understand that these struggles exist and that they're real, and we believe you, right? We know that there are food banks to give you food, but we also know that it's hard to get that food. And we know that you can't get a babysitter to go get your food. We know that you can't get a bus ticket to go get your food. We know that another good example is like these freaking stimulus checks, right? We know that some people are not getting a stimulus check, right? But the people that are getting stimulus checks are like, stimulus checks, awesome, you know, and it's just not, it doesn't reflect reality, right? So yeah, and then I also just wanted to add that like charity bounds us up in capitalism, and it's not something to ignore. It's not something to say, oh, but there's a charity that does this, you know, giving us a false sense of like security. It's like, no, these are backed by multi-million-dollar companies who have that capitalist mindset. So yeah, thank you, Rudy. So many thoughts and feels.
Yes, and I just want to lift up, somebody asked in the chat about, you know, what is solidarity? I hope we answer that. But also, if y'all have questions about things that we're saying, if we have capacity, I would definitely encourage y'all to drop it in the chat, and we'll try to address them, because this was some community learning skill shares today. And also pass the stimmy if you got it like that. So these are picks.
Yeah, we have a slide on wealth distribution. I wasn't sure if we should jump to that or if y'all wanted to talk about.
That's just forewarning, spoiler alert. We're gonna get it, but just know.
Get your wallets out. All right, Christina, you want to read the next one?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Meeting others' needs, meeting own needs, mutual aid, transformative justice. In like in this space, right, that we've like created together, we some of the principles that we want, some of the things that we are very intentional about practicing is you know, is transformative justice, and also always learning. So I'll be like hella transparent. I am a very petty, I'm a very heartbroken, I am a very traumatized, I am a very beautiful, I'm a very strong soul. I am prideful, I am humble, all these things. And I know that before this group, I didn't believe that transformative justice was a real thing. I didn't believe that it was a thing that could help me, or that it was a way that that it was a tool. And also I wasn't deeply aware of like how much it was needed. But like being able to see, right, like when you're in a position where you want forgiveness so bad, and also you're in a position where all you know is punitive measures, so you're deathly afraid to like either ask for help or show vulnerability. Like for me, COVID-19 has definitely like broken me all the way down, made me so tired, but also just made me even more aware of like the amount of help that I need. So I've really like, We All We Got has the group, the people, the learning is really like transformed me. And so we'll talk a little bit about the you know, how we're definitely like using this mutual aid space to like really work as like a what is it, like a an experiment, right, on what does it look like to build a world where like Black women are resting, right? What does it look like to build a world where we're not using punitive measures to hold one another accountable? What does it look like? So yeah, that's mine for that. Jen, we can see your screen just in case. Cool. I was on a Zoom call where somebody was sharing their screen and went all up into their finances. I was like, oh, you rich. Oh.
But that's solidarity, looking out. Like
That reminds me of the time I was in a coffee shop. I saw another guy's financials. This fool, he had $80,000 in his bank account.
What?
And I was like, can you buy me a cup of coffee, please?
You buy me a cup of coffee now.
Forever.
Side note, y'all ever told somebody how expensive something was and they were like, oh, that's pocket change? I was like, oh, have I had a rich friend and not known it? You rich. Okay.
that's so real. No, yes. And that's when we have a nice conversation about redistributing wealth, which is another spoiler alert. We're gonna get there. But you know, I love it. I can like talk to that a little bit because I've talked a lot about how being a part of We All We Got has really been life-changing for me and just giving me language and access to frameworks. And, you know, I've really found a home in being a practicing person moving to transformative justice because it's, you know, transformative justice at its core is it's a part of restorative practice is a larger umbrella. But like transformative justice is like instead of just addressing, you know, the issue, right, which is somebody stole something and you know we have a restorative conference where people are apologizing. It's like we do that part of the work too about conflicts, but we're also not like death, right? We're looking at context. We're talking about, you know, people, somebody stole something from a liquor store to get food because they don't have food. Food insecurity is a real thing, right? You know, and so like transformative justice is like really calling us to dig deeper and to like live in that solidarity work, right? Because it means that we have to like be cognizant and it's hard, right? You know, also spoiler alert, mutual aid is about abolition. It is about defunding and abolishing police and prisons. And so it means that we have to be creative and inventive and dream of new ways to do different things, right? And also like check ourselves, right? Meeting our own needs. Like we're not being savior complexes, you know, like we're going to talk about that a little later too, but like we know we are not going to be the only thing that saves something, right? And so that means we have to be in community. We got to deal with difficult personalities. Abolish the white savior complex, yes, and abolish how it lives in us sometimes as Black folks and POC. Like we can be guilty of embodying the things we've been socialized into, and we also can reject it and transform ourselves in service of the work. Which shout out to, I can't remember who said that, but it's another organizer. I didn't come up with that part, but yeah.
Yeah, and like Rudy jump in whenever, but I've really loved like us trying to hone in on like a transformative justice practice because like I'm not as graceful as my wife, you know, like I have hard stops very often. And I think that transformative justice has made me understand that no one is, you know, disposable and that everyone deserves, you know, their you know, what they need to feel supported, like Rudy was saying, right? Which is how I feel like out in the desert when we're searching for people, you know, like I don't know them. I don't know what they did to get there. I don't know if they were, you know, mean to their family or whatnot. You know, those things are important. And like, that's what transformative justice is for, to like address those issues, but it doesn't mean that they're not human and that they don't deserve dignity as well, because yeah, we're not trying to replicate like a carceral process, which, you know, in our mutual aid, we have experienced like people wanting to call the cops on us, you know, and at the root of that is like, I don't know what's at the root of that, honestly, aside from white supremacy, but it's like, you're trying to stop us from helping each other. Okay, you know, why?
Yeah, so I feel like I was kind of embarrassed to say this earlier, but I'm just gonna say it. I don't really know much about transformative justice, and that I think is okay to say, especially in this space, because we're all learning, we're all growing. But it's definitely needed, especially like in terms of like the work that some of the people go through, especially on the online side, right? There's a lot of situation or stories are being told to us about things that are happening to them. And like, how do we go and think about, you know, really showing up in solidarity for these people without, you know, clinging to systems of oppression, like calling the police or like, so I think it's definitely something that I need to learn and think through, especially in the type of work that we're doing, but it's really central to, I do think it's really central to mutual aid.
And like something that we learn from all people doing TJ is that we're constantly learning, you know, because I feel, you know, I feel you too, Rudy. This year, like in like, you know, in study group, you know, in study groups and in how we talk about it within We All We Got, I'm learning about the stories that I've been told about what forgiveness looks like, what, you know, and that forgiveness isn't forgetting, and that for like, you know, and it doesn't mean me violating my boundaries, and it doesn't mean me having to be this totally different person. So like, I just want to let you know, Rudy, like, yo, same, right there with you. And I, you know, and I hope as we learn more about transformative justice, because I'm gonna act up and I'm gonna need a TJ process to be forgiven and brought back in. I hope that we spend our lives learning together, you know, because I really love y'all and y'all really changed my life. And shout out to people in the chat too. Kari,
I just wanted to say I really appreciate both y'all being honest and like really wanted to like just double down and clarify, like, we're not perfect. We have petty moments where it's just like, let me just tell you about what happened, and I'm not going to be TJ informed, and I just need to like vent, you know, right? And I think that's super important too, and like demystifying this word, that it's not just like a, you wake up one day and I've been transformed and I am now the woke queen who will always be on the right side of history, you know, like, and I think that's important too. Like, you know, the idea of nobody is disposable, but I definitely be like, some people going in the recycling bin, right? Like, some people I just can't hold space for right now. And I'm not going to call for them to be arrested. I'm not going to call for them to be disposed of by everybody, but I can't do it. You know, I got to tap out. And I think that's important. And talking about this, because it can feel very like Chris said, it can feel like, well, I'm never gonna be able to do that because I haven't forgiven this person. And you know, like, and I think the beauty of this space is, you know, we take what we can, and like, and I think that's just so important to like not be like, we have it figured out. Welcome to the master class. I will take your $1,000. You know, like, it's not that.
because we want to be really intentional about not making sure anybody walks away from this call like, oh my God, I gotta read 80 more books. I gotta have 1,000 more one-to-ones because I'm just not ready enough, not smart enough, I'm not down enough. Like, you know, definitely don't be out here perpetuating white supremacy, right? What we not gonna do is tear down the master's house with the master's tools. Like, get you some learning, but also be in relationship, because That's a big part of transformative justice. You can't go around trying to yell at people like, you a newly saved person telling people they're gonna go to social justice hell. That's not how it works. It's like you gotta be in relationship with folks. You gotta be like, look, because I tell you, I'm not gonna tell y'all the conversations, but look, Kelsey can put a heart up and let y'all know. Kelsey has had to see me through, because I've been like, no, I'm not. No, I don't believe it's possible. And Kelsey's had to talk me through. But if Kelsey was a random person who I didn't care about, that would have further traumatized me and made me even more resistant to TJ processes. But Kelsey was someone who cared about me. I care about her, and we've had a relationship. So that's the thing about it too, friends. Like, in the spaces that you're in, keep deepening those relationships, because like that, yeah, relationships is what it takes for TJ to work out and do study groups. Mhm.
Do you want to move on? Okay. Capacity. Hashtag capacity and care. What you were saying, Christina, made me think about like how transformative justice, like it makes us think about like who we're accountable to, and mutual aid, like in mutual aid, we're accountable to each other, but most importantly, like we're accountable to ourselves, right? And making sure that like we live and thrive and survive every day. And so I brought this slide in because Anna Laura, was it Anna Laura? I think it was Anna Laura brought up this idea of like, oh, maybe it was you, Christina, where like we need to find a way to move in and out of the work easier, right? Because this like work isn't sustainable. It's something that we've talked about too. And so how can we like share with each other what capacity we're at, feelings of burnout without feeling like shame, right? And without feeling like you all will, forget about me or, abandon like the things that I care about, so yeah, I don't know if anyone else wants to speak on that, but.
It's hard saying no, you all. And it's hard saying I can't. It's hard saying I'm tired. It's hard saying that like I just like just being like I just have nothing else left inside me. But y'all want to know what's gonna be even harder on you? If you like, if you don't say it, but it's hard even saying it, and we all we got, like we're trying to figure out, and we're like trying to work on and practice, what does it look like to be like, hey, like I'll be back, or hey, like I need to take a rest and I'm not sure for how long I'll need to rest. And I think, I'll speak I think when I do have to say that I can't do something or I'm unable to show up, you know, it's taken me a long time to recognize that the abandonment that I feel that I'm doing to the people that I love, that reminds me of times when I was abandoned, I was othered, I was left out. Like, it's important for me to know that white supremacy is telling me that that's the same thing, and it's not. Like, y'all, the way that the state incarcerates our folks, kills our folks, separates our families, baby, that is not the same thing as you saying, look, motherfuckers, we have a 7:00 meeting tonight, I can't make it. That's not the same. And for me, for a long time, I was like, you know what? It took X amount of 100 years to cause this type of oppression. And guess what? This oppression is going to be dismantled by me investing that same amount of time every day, all the time. But that's not true, friends. That's not true. For me, like, capacity and care has not only looked like letting people know that it's okay to rest. It's also looked like practicing that for myself. And I'll lift up. Like, it's definitely something that I'm still learning, but something that you know, if you have like a toolbox for how we're gonna get to liberation, like capacity and care is in that toolbox, along with TJ, you know, and marshmallows. You junk food needs to make it to the revolution. Okay, that's it for me.
I
Christina, I can't with you. Go ahead, Rudy. I just had to let the world know I cannot with her.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with you, Christina. And I think the hardest part for me, like thinking about capacity, is like really breaking down that stigma. Like, I have this one role, I have to do this one job, I have to be this, like, be productive. And like learning how to break that down has been really helpful. But also, like, it made me, I think, made me trust everybody in the space a lot more, right? Because the best part of like being in a mutual aid is that you don't have to do all the work. If you say, hey, I'm going to leave for like a couple days, the work's going to get done because people are there to support you and to support the work. And I think that's really important for, you know, thinking about your capacity, because you're not the only person that can do something. Mutual aid is also about like sharing skills, learning new skills, and somebody will like pick up a new skill when they have to, right? Yeah, just wanted to add that.
Me and Christina are having a battle in the chat right now.
You who are listening
Yeah,
in the archives, Kelsey is coming for me.
yeah. I would say capacity and care looks like knowing like everything that y'all lift up. And I think also like we don't have to cannibalize ourselves for this work, right? We don't have to like get to the very last drop. We can pause, right? Because my dream is also, we said this in the planning meeting, like my dream is a world where we're rested in doing this, right? My dream is a world where there are so many of us who are tapping in and showing up for ourselves and each other, that like it's okay if one of us has to take a break for 3 weeks and the world doesn't end. And the reality is right now the world still don't have to end. Like, you know, and we can take care of ourselves and like you know, I be out here taking meetings from bed sometimes and like learning not to be ashamed of that, because my body is telling me I need to take care of it. And I think that's important, and like really like that shame work and grace is a big part of how we can, you know, do that capacity and care thing.
Well, I want to bring attention to a really cool comment in the chat that like definitely touched me from Kelly. Like a mentor recently shared with me that this hyper capitalistic mindset society makes us think we have to constantly be producing to be worthy to share space. Like that's definitely, yeah, that definitely spoke to me and has definitely been a part of my like understanding my capacity journey, because it's like you know, I can show up to the space with a thought or an idea, and that's enough and that's valid. Something capacity and care has also taught me is that we're in relationship and care with each other. I have to be mindful of when maybe something is going on that's urgent with me, uh being mindful of how other people I'm in relationship with in the group are going to receive that when it's there. You know, like being mindful if I'm sending because we all use WhatsApp as a main form of communication. So if I drop something heavy in the WhatsApp really, really late at night or really, really early or at a strange time in the day, what does that mean for other people in their capacity? And then also too, for me, like um, showing up and communicating what I can and can't do, and holding each other down.
Yeah.
Ooh, oh, sorry. I just
No, no,
saw
no,
the
go.
chat is popping, and Tanisha is like, and if we don't have a job, our time is free for others to have. As somebody who was cute and unemployed for the good first half of the pandemic, but was working maybe 50 hours a week on mutual aid projects, we really have to disrupt this idea that like any time that is not being like, you know, accounted for by W-2s is just free. And I think that that's really important. I just wanted to like say I pair with you on that.
Yes, and the questions too, thank you so much for those. We're gonna leave some space at the end for questions, but we do have a couple things to get through. And I forgot what I was gonna say about this, but that was a great conversation about capacity care. We have a slide on lessons learned, but Kelsey reminded me that we have given y'all a lot of lessons learned already. And this conversation is about like forming a mutual aid, right? And like how to sustain a mutual aid, but it's also about like how to end a mutual aid. So like that's something that we want to just share with y'all. So that's why we've been like, you know, maybe unconventional in talking about like relationship building and radical community care, because like, yes, you can go shopping and get food for people, but like, you know, that is not like at the core of like, you know, a way to like sustain this movement. So yeah, the last question is, what is our dream for ending this work?
Are we doing the silent game again?
What was our record? What was our record when we did the last silent
It
one?
was like 45 minutes of just looking at each other on mute. Talk a lot. Like I'm very verbose, so I want to give everyone opportunities to share the air.
You go first, Kels.
And okay. My dream for ending this work or transitioning this work is that, you know, the urgency isn't there. I think community care will always exist and be important, but the state has failed our people, y'all. Like this pandemic was not like a shock to so many people, right? Like it's just a continuation of what's been happening. You know, our most marginalized folks or the people that society attempts to marginalize, like can tell you about how food stamps ain't been enough, you know, can tell you about dealing with rude ass you know, workers. You know, this was my first time being on unemployment during the pandemic, but people have been dealing with this bullshit for years, you know? And so my dream for ending this work is that we have sustainable systems, you know, social, you know, the support networks, right? That's supposed to exist, right? The ways that we were all able to get stimmies, right? Like because the government decided people were suffering, that is a consistent thing. And it's not something we gotta wait a million years for them to like double down and reduce, you know, after making promises, hashtag I don't fuck with Joe Biden. You know, like I like my dream is that there are systems that are pairing that allow us to be able to show up as humans at our capacity.
My dream for ending, and I appreciate Kelsey using the word like transitioning too, because I honor that for like a lot of our communities, right? Even when a loved one passes on, we're just like, they're just like transitioning. And so it's kind of like never a end to things, but like a transition. But like, you know, I think it is about more folks on this Zoom call, you know, getting together in community, creating your pods, right? Creating more people, you know, adding more people into your pods, caring for others, allowing for others to care for you. And just us being active and in solidarity with each other. Yeah, I think that like that's my dream for ending this work, so that when another pandemic comes, that like, I think a lot about like some of the requests and stuff that we got that were just too scary to fill in the first few days of the pandemic and stuff, because it was like in-person stuff and we didn't know a lot about things. But like, yeah, my dream is that everybody has like a mutual aid space, like we created here and that others have created during this pandemic, that they can count on to be able to show up for them in times of tragedy, trauma, and when they need help. That's my dream. Like, yeah, that we won't be needed anymore because everybody has their own mutual aid set up and we all take care of one another.
I love that. I think my dream really is that like we don't go back to normal after this, right? That we did all this collective learning, all this collective action, and that like we don't go back to just, you know, what people want out of this administration, right? And that's my dream.
Yeah, I think my dream is to just, I guess like I want to bring it to a local like government level and to say that like my dream is to see these systems like working for the people. Like I believe it's possible in some capacity in 1,000 years maybe, but I'm really tired of like representational politics, right? Of like people seeing a queer brown person in power, like, you know, for example, our mayor, and thinking that, you know, we're all good now. I want to really see like this transformation where like there's, you know, real change being made, and you know, not to be so generic, but to actually know that like we can build our own systems, and then we can also use the government systems if we have our own systems like to model it after, right? Like Kelsey was saying, like we've been doing this in our cultures like for hundreds of thousands of years, right? How I came into this work was like understanding too that mutualistas were so important in the farm workers' rights movement. Like they were a community of farm workers who lent money to each other, like created their own credit union and like handed out money to each other, you know, where it didn't have to be paid back at a certain time, where like their, you know, ability to live and eat was the recipe for being able to like thrive and become self-empowered. So I guess like my dream for ending this work too is like seeing folks not afraid to become radicalized or self-empowered or self-determined. Like I think we shouldn't be afraid of that, and it's within, you know, all of us. So yeah. And then our next slide's on wealth redistribution. So we should get there.
Do it. Is it my turn to do it? It's okay, I'll take it. What is wealth distribution? It ain't yours. So Kelsey lifted up earlier in this, like really thinking and like breaking it down. It's like, do I deserve housing more than anybody else? Do I deserve for people with it, for people like baby from the coffee shop story with $80,000 in the bank? Do you deserve, no. And it really be about and I know folks will go deeper into this, but it really being about like if you have it, share it, and also understanding the connection of like your wealth, especially if you're like a white privileged person, like your connection to wealth, how it has been connected and is on the back of folks who are struggling. So go ahead, let that money go.
Yeah, and quick little commercial. One of our organizers, Blair Overstreet, will be doing 2 sessions. One is tonight at 7:30 about it ain't yours, right? I'm so grateful I got to help come with the title. And learning how to move money from white and or class privileged networks to mutual aid and community plan, right? And so this is not only just like an infomercial about how the money isn't yours. It's literally like giving you steps to be able to talk to, because we know that white people listen to white people, rich people listen to rich people, right? So leveraging those privileges and relationships to be like, hey, I know you give $3,000 a year to the center because you think that's where work happens. This is how you can give it to people who are using self-determination, who are actually meeting the needs without barriers. This isn't going towards salary, or if it is going towards salary, it's going towards people who are like on ground. And being able to have those conversations and having these tools. And so someone asked in the chat, is it a 2-part? No, these are just 2 sessions of the same one. We're also going to be working on trying to get a recording so that way it can be made available. But yeah, and even if you can't come, I think there's so much energy research on the internet about like what it means to redistribute wealth. And hopefully if you listen to this whole conversation, you really understand that like our solidarity model is about, giving it back, right? And not giving it back to feel good, but giving it back because that is what we are supposed to be doing as humans who care about other folks on this earth. So yeah, that's a quick little commercial. And wanted to open it up to Q&A, I think. Ooh, we 4 minutes ahead of schedule. Yay.
Yes, thank you so much to Kelsey, Jen, Rudy, and Christina. Wow, what an amazing session this has been. I am so honored to have been able to share this space with you all. We do want to leave these last 15 minutes or so to questions and answers. I did notice that there was one question in particular from Penny, so I will get to that in just a minute. But before that, we have a starter question, and this is open to all members on our panel. One of the questions that came in is, what are some small ways or big ways that folks can contribute to We All We Got San Diego, especially considering folks are currently struggling? So if you can maybe provide just, some smaller big ways that they can get involved, that would be great.
Yeah, so when like we all started it, and like in the beginning, we were very like, look, like people, we wanted so that just rich people aren't the only ones that can be able to help and support. So like if you don't have like the change, right? The monies, there is like remote help like opportunities. And then, also if in your network, sharing, donating and stuff to We All We Got. And then, also we have two weekly food distros. So like if you do need some support too, please feel free to like come through and pick up food as well. And if you need some change, hit us up too. And if we have it, it's yours.
And where can folks find that information?
We have a website and an Instagram. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Our second question from Penny. How can we better prioritize the lived experience folks have in these projects? How can we better redistribute our capacity and resources to care in order to prioritize the needs of multiply marginalized folks who are left to deal with the challenges of systemic oppression? If you want me to reread it, I'm happy to do so also.
Yeah, can you reread it?
Of course. How can we better prioritize the lived experience folks have in these projects? How can we better redistribute our capacity and resources to care in order to prioritize the needs of multiply marginalized folks who are left to deal with the challenges of systemic oppression?
I can speak on the second question, but I think we highlighted a couple of ideas, right, to maximize your capacity. And one of those, I think, is to rely on your community, right? If you are part of a mutual aid, that you rely on the people that are doing the work if you need to take a break. Because if you need to take a break, then that means your capacity is low. But then when you come back, your capacity is so much higher and you can care at, you know, the way that you're supposed to care, or can care.
Thank you, Penny, so much for this question. I think like with our food distribution, one thing that's been successful is like we've had folks from the community who attended the food distro like actually come volunteer every week, and then they're able to take home like as much food as they want. I mean, they can take home as much food as they want regardless, but it's like, you know, one way that it's like a direct like connection, right? And also like, I know that there have been folks that have helped us with care packages for the houseless who have also been houseless or experienced housing insecurity themselves. So having folks like with that direct experience really leading these efforts, and then us like giving them support, you know, and like helping, you know, with the emotional labor too, right? Because like it's one thing to like physically put things together, but like the emotional part to it is really important. And then I want to say one thing that's super unique about our mutual aid is like all of the harmonizers, so that core group that we were talking about earlier, are all from different organizations, grassroots organizations in San Diego. So we uplift each other's missions and values. You know, that wealth redistribution is coming from Surge, Standing Up for Racial Justice. We have cross-posted with, you know, March for Black Women. And, you know, it's just amazing to like build up this network where the people with like, you know, intersectional identities, intersectional oppressions, like we're able to see folks in their full like selves, if that makes sense, because we all like have a story, you know, and I think that ties to relationship building too.
I think it also comes from like creating, like checking ourselves, right? Like I think if we're creating space for folks who are experiencing marginalization to show up, it means that like we're not doing charity within our organizing, right? And we're like respecting like the same thing we were talking about, like lived experience, expertise, you know. Yeah, we're not doing paternalistic, patronizing stuff. I think that's an important piece too.
And I think too, like kind of to the question, like how can we better redistribute our capacity and resources to care in order to prioritize the needs of multiply? You know, I think it's like super important to like kind of recognize, you know, and I'm definitely saying this a lot to like Black women and femmes to understand when we struggling too. You know, like me and Kelsey were on the phone last night and we were talking about what would it look like to create like a trauma response things, and we were like talking about how we could provide support, and I was like, oh damn, I think I want to be on one of the programs. Like I think like I want help. And like, you know, that's been really difficult for me because of like my internalized ableism, right? Like I'm a type 1 diabetic. And if I think about like, you know, my life and stuff, and having not the best access to medical, you know, insurance and stuff like that, I think about how sick I've been and still been really sick and shown up you know, shown up and worked and really pushed myself and gotten sicker and not told anybody when I was sick, you know. I just think about like that being a really important thing, just an important thing for me and an important thing for folks who are out there, you know, especially Black women and femmes who are at those intersections. Like, it is important that we rest and we get our own understanding about how, like, literally, if we're not resting, that change can't happen, because we're not allowing ourselves to recuperate. And I think what everybody said too, right? Making sure that I'm organizing from the inside out. So if on the inside, you know, I'm not taking active steps to care for myself or like dismantle internalized white supremacy, then like the world outside of me is gonna look like that. So so just taking that time to be in community, care for yourself and know that it's going to take a while, and also looking out for and showing up for Black women and femmes, you know, because Black lives matter, not only the ones who've passed away, but the ones at your doctor's office, the ones at your workplaces, the ones that you're friends with, you know, the ones that you're Facebook friends with, and the ones who are your neighbors and stuff. So that's a huge one for me. Black women and femmes, please take care.
We have another question from Aisha. Where can I find the It Ain't Yours Zoom link? I'm not, oh, sorry, I think that's a different question. I will get back to you.
Is it on the IG? The It Ain't Yours? Or do we
Trying to see if it's in the link tree right now. And
Well,
if it's not on the flyer on the IG, you can get it. Yeah, it's not in the link tree yet, but
yeah, and for white folks on this call, the group Surge Standing Up for Racial Justice San Diego is a good place to find the link to join the event too. It's on Instagram, SURJSD, I believe. And it's a good organization to start with and like attend their meetings and orientations to learn about, you know, how to support BIPOC-led efforts. And yeah, I would steer folks there too, to Surge.
We also have a question from Edwina. Are there any North County San Diego organizations in your network?
I'm not sure. Are there?
there are North County mutual aids that at this time I can't recall. And I know we have like folks who are in North County.
But if like if you want to get down with us, hit us up. If you're represented in North County, we get food to folks in North County, but we always are down for being in the community. Yeah, is Garden Unidos, is that Melissa's org?
She was involved with it, but I know it's Indigenous led.
Got you. Okay.
But also, this is a beautiful time. Like, if you see something, if you see a gap, to create and you know, and like do this work together.
Again, I really want to thank you for your presence, your time, for your knowledge, for your labor of love. This is work that you know, I don't know if it requires a lot of emotional labor. However, we end up doing a lot of emotional labor, especially our Black folks and our brown folks. And so we just wanted, again, to thank you so much for your time and just your expertise in doing this work. Again, this is We All We Got San Diego, Kelsey Daniels, Rudy Fabunan, Jen Frost Moreno, Christina Griffin. Please check them out on their social media website, their social media pages. Kelsey dropped pay links. So if you want to support financially speaking and are able to, especially with that STEMI money, please do so. We want to continue the work. This work is imperative, it's necessary, it's vital. Again, thank you all for coming to the 6th Annual Social Justice and Education Conference. We hope you will return for day 2 tomorrow. And just one last thing, if you wouldn't mind taking just 5 minutes out of your day to fill out our survey, we would greatly appreciate it. We are open to all constructive criticism. We want to provide the best programming available to you all. Thank you again. Much love, gratitude. Be careful out there. Thank you. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you. Gracias. Gracias.
Still there, Xenia?
Yes, sir.
Oh, good. All right. Well done,
All right, bye,
everybody.
y'all.
Bye.
Thank
Love
you so
y'all.
much. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I will be in touch. I will be in touch with you all.
Cool.
Hi, Christina. How are you?
Doing good. Is that?
Yeah, it's me. Can you see me?
No, I can't. Let me see.
Let's let you see.
Oh, I see you now, Peter. I don't see it. It's still loading. How you been? Oh, now I can't hear you. I'll message you on Facebook. Love you, Peter. Thank you. Zadia, do I need to email you? I'm gonna email you my address.
Okay, yeah, email me. I'm gonna send you my email address right now, actually.
Okay. Peter, I see you now.
Yeah, I had an internet freeze up. I came on super late. I apologize. I had to take a midterm right now. But but I jumped on. You guys y'all have another event tonight, or I caught the tail end of it.
We have an event about redistributing wealth. Let me put the Instagram in the chat so you can.
I have you on Instagram. It'll be on there.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
On the Surge one. Hold on, let me just make sure I get you the link.
Yeah, please. I would appreciate that.
Oh man, I don't see it on that one. Hold on, let me see. Surge. Okay. Give it to you.